Why must we all stand up against unfair vaccine distribution? What is the problem? South Africa, Malawi, and other African countries are in danger of having history repeated. In the early 2000s, millions of people died due to pharmaceutical companies pricing successful HIV and AIDS treatments out of reach of these low-income countries. As Lois Chingandu from Frontline AIDS said, "It is a cruel irony that activists who fought tirelessly for free medicine for HIV and AIDS are now being killed by COVID-19 because once again, pharmaceutical profits are being put ahead of people's lives." What this has just proven is that even though we have a new virus, it is the same problem and the same people that are being left behind. Earlier this year, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and the European Union were blocking proposals of the World Trade Organizations for low-income countries to get vaccines faster. This proposal would have eliminated the current monopoly being held by pharmaceutical companies and allow a more equal distribution of vaccines worldwide. Ultimately, their greed is gambling with the lives of those deemed most vulnerable.
What we are sitting with now is not just an asymmetry, but a gross asymmetry between countries who have been able to access the vaccine and those who have not.
Low-income countries are currently seeing second and third waves of the coronavirus, while most high-income countries are seeing the end of the pandemic, with almost all of their population being vaccinated. The problem is not that there is a shortage of vaccines. Instead, there is unfair distribution of vaccines among low and high-income countries.
14% of the world population lives in the privileged countries, and yet they have purchased 53% of the vaccines even before they become available on the market.
Why is it a problem? The coronavirus has claimed the lives of more than 3 million people worldwide. The pandemic is particularly devastating in low-income countries who are struggling with inadequate medical infrastructure. Low-income countries are often also more densely populated, resulting in higher rates of infection and more severe outcomes.
Even as we speak today, we anticipate that 9 out of 10 people in some of the world's poorest countries are not going to be able to access the vaccine next year.
Another devastating effect of the coronavirus is that inequality gaps are being exposed and widened. Low-income countries who are already struggling with access to basic human rights are now seeing a decline in economic growth, food security, and income due to job losses. Low-income countries cannot even begin to address these concerns until they have access to vaccines. So the first step would be an urgent, equitable distribution of the vaccines to low-income countries. However, even if this equitable distribution was achieved, it would be meaningless if the vaccines were not affordable. So there needs to be a push from the global community to ensure that affordability is not a barrier for people from poorer communities accessing the vaccine. Low-income countries are not asking for an act of charity from high-income countries. They're asking for an act of equity and humanity. The fact that we even got to this point speaks to the root cause, which is injustice. And unfortunately, in situations like COVID-19, it's always the poorest people who suffer the most. The virus doesn't discriminate. Neither should the vaccine. Together we can make a change. Join Edmund Education Beyond Borders and the Justice Desk and add your voice to the global campaign for readily available and affordable vaccines. Vaccines for all. Vaccines for all.
Makukonye wonke umuntu.
Vaccines for all.
Inentings vir almal.
Vaccine, como no esse.
Vaccines for all.
Vaccines for all.